Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And again, another long day of driving. I'm now in Winston-Salem. But of course that doesn't mean that the charts stop moving. So this, folks, it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. Look, obviously the big story this week, it's with Despacito by Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee, and yes, the remix with Bieber, tying One Sweet Day by Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men's record for the number of weeks at #1 on the Hot 100. That's huge-ass news. Of course, whether or not it's going to last much longer at the top, that's an open question. I've been predicting this is going to be falling off for a long time, and yet it hasn't happened. Of course, we have something massive coming up in our new arrivals that could potentially threaten it, and yes, we will get to that. But right now, it's a margins game, whether or not that's going to overtake it, because again, we got Wild Thoughts and Bodak Yellow right beneath it. Now, also of note is that Unforgettable fell back 2 spots down to number 6. So Believer by Imagine Dragons and Attention by Charlie Puth went up to 4 and 5. And then most of the chart doesn't change as usual. We got There's Nothing Holding Me Back by Shawn Mendes at number 7. That's What I Like by Bruno Mars at number 8. And still in the top 10, Shape of You by Ed Sheeran at number 9. Then we have a new top 10 entry, and one that apparently seems to be following in its footsteps of its pretty bad predecessor. Yeah, Rake It Up by Yo Gotti featuring Nicki Minaj. Apparently Down in the DM didn't do well enough because the follow-up's even doing better. I can't say that's a good thing. Man, this bed behind me looks and feels as comfortable. But okay, losers and dropouts, it was a pretty busy week in this category. The biggest one is In Case You Didn't Know by Brett Young, which turned out to be a pretty surprisingly big hit. Then you got Slippery by Migos featuring Gucci Mane, that's out too. Then you got Malibu by Miley Cyrus and Bad Liar by Selena Gomez. Okay, I'm a little bit surprised. Both those songs are perilously close to not making a year-end list. And then of course you got First Day Out by T Grizzly, which is thankfully not making any year-end list. And then the one that falls in the weird marginal spot, Craving You by Thomas Rhett featuring Maren Morris. It actually did amazingly well despite not really being a country song, so I guess I'll give them credit for that. Granted, our losers are a fair bit less interesting. Right off the debut, we have Silence by Marshmello featuring Khalid down to 52, and we have the 2 continuing losers, Reminder by The Weeknd and Flatliner by Cole Swindle featuring Dierks Bentley down to 87 and 88 respectively. Then we have the 2 other songs that frankly I have never really cared about, mostly because they're not very good. Magnolia by Playboi Carti down to 47, and Somebody Else Will by Justin Moore down to 69. I was amazed that song stuck around at all. Hey. Now, if possible, our gains list looks even smaller. I've already talked about Rake It Up somehow going up to the top 10, but we also had When It Rains, It Pours by Luke Combs up to 58. It looks to be becoming a modest country hit. And we also have off its debut a couple weeks ago, that new song from Jacques Keys, BED, up to 75. I don't know if it's going to become a hit, but it's got personality. I don't mind it. Then we've got our pretty small list of returning entries too, and it was actually a decent week for 2 people. First being Camila Cabello with No Better, coming back with Major Lazer, Travis Scott, and Quavo up to 99, and sheer collaboration with Young Thug, Havana, going back up to 94. That actually is something. It's a halfway decent song. And Young Thug also had a decent week with Relationship with Future going to 98. That is not a good song.
Girl, I got a question for you. Can I get an answer? Yeah. Girl, I got a question for you. Can I get an answer? Yeah.
You know, I'll give Chris Brown this. He is right to pose some questions here. Like, how did you get a halfway decent groove on this song? I do like that bass line. Or why in the nine hells did you think on the bridge interpreting Kevin Little was a good idea? Because it actually was a good idea. I'm not complaining about that at all. But I do have some other questions, like why you thought it's a good idea to constantly remind people that these girls are into you because you're dangerous, or why you compared this girl's booty to angel dust, or why you want to talk about how you're gonna kill that booty, or how on this song called Questions, you don't ask any actual questions of this girl. Look, the sad fact is that the groove here is actually halfway decent, and I do like that sample of the Kevin Little song. It's a pretty good track. The shame thing is that it's Chris Brown doing Chris Brown all over it, and you can only get by so much with that.
Ain't gotta wait to make them moves, I be loaded. Why you out here drinking 40s, I just told it. Still that same nigga in a foreign, but it's stolen. Ryan sporty, acting sporty, can't control it. I'm doing fraud, got that bag, yeah, I'm transporting. I got that bag on me, nigga, like I'm transporting. He dropped the mixtape, thought I would've reposted. I ain't posted mixtape, cause I don't fuck with shorty.
You know what? I don't often give Kodak Black credit, but here it is. He's actually riding this beat halfway decently, and that is a pretty sweet guitar sample behind him. Most because I've heard this before from the Ghetto Boys and Mind Playing Tricks on Me from 1992. And pretty much the Ghetto Boys in that lane at that time, they were untouchable. They had Scarface with them. Yeah, Kodak Black is not Scarface, so he has lines like, I be going ham, I do not baloney. Or how he describes and tries to rhyme reposted with shoddy. Yeah. Or he calls himself crispy. Or how in the end of the second verse, he talks about how girls like it when he chokes them when he's screwing them. Yeah, because that's what you want to remind people of Kodak Black. I have to say it, it's not exactly a Kodak moment, and yes, you use that line too. Ugh. There's parts of me that wants to like this song. As I said, the groove is good. He's more on beat probably than he has ever been, but the whack lines that he piles onto this project, no. I can't endorse this.
I can tell that you came with a Disney flow, ayy. Ain't nobody ever heard about your Disney show, ayy. Got a bitch that remind me of my cereal from Britain. When I see her, I'm like Cheerio. Yeah, Alissa called asking me if we could win against Jake Paul. I said we Gucci like the shirts with the snakes on. I just heard the song Team 10, now I hate y'all. Logan, that will be your last hit like an 8-ball.
Well, folks, this is here. I don't know who to blame for this. Actually, I know exactly who to blame for this. We can blame Jake Paul for at least starting this and Logan Paul for perpetuating it. But now it's time to assign some blame to RiceGum, who is deciding to pile on, and yet for some god-awful reason, this crossed over to the Hot 100 because it somehow picked up almost as many views. Now, for those of you who don't know, RiceGum was a video reactor in the same game as Leafy is here, but then he decided that, hey, I want to rap. And you know what? Points where it is due, he's a better rapper than Jake Paul. He's on beat, he's gonna flub rhymes, of course. He tries to rhyme senior year with interference. But you know what? He at least shows a little bit more competency in what he's doing. He's on the beat, even though there isn't really much of a hook to the song, so I can't say it's sticking in my head that much longer. But the good things I can say about this beat stop there. It's generic trap nonsense with a pretty basic piano line, and Alissa Violet, I understand getting her on the song because, again, you want to make this hurt for Jake Paul, and bizarrely make a go at Logan as well, even though I thought Logan and Alissa were on the same side, but yet RiceGum's going after him too. But apparently, this is what they're trying to go with, and Alissa is not good. Her voice just does not flow over this production. It's too braying and nasal, and she really is a letdown across the entire song for as much as RiceGum is trying to save it. But I can't even say RiceGum's doing that good of a job with it. He decides to bring in lines about how apparently Jake Paul was a bully in high school. Really? That's all you have? I mean, make fun of his Disney Channel flow all you want. I would easily join you and agree with you there. But if you've got no actual beef here, and the most you're saying is that you're screwing Alissa and making fun of his current girlfriend or slash wife, because who cares? I know too much about this nonsense anyway. But again, I think the most appropriate thing is this is fuckboy rap. It doesn't belong anywhere near the Hot 100, and it's hot garbage, all of it. In terms of diss tracks, this isn't even in a top 10 that I would have heard thus far in the past 2 to 3 months. This is whack. Get this crap off. You know, given how bad this week is on the Hot 100, I'm almost inclined to be nice to this song. I mean, I like the guitar rollick. It's got a little bit of groove to it. I mean, the percussion feels fake as hell and it doesn't really balance all that well, and I think whoever did the vocal production needs to be shot, but I see the appeal of a song like this coming from Miley. The problem is that I have history with Miley Cyrus. I have covered her work, and you know what, Miley? There isn't getting around this. I've read a couple of pieces about how white pop artists, particularly white women in pop, they like to borrow from hip hop culture in order to flesh out their sound, get a little bit edgier, and yet the second and before it gets too real, they'll just bounce back over to making pop music, or to quote someone like Everlast back in the late 90s talking about Woodstock. Yeah, then it turned into yuppies and they started fucking the world up. When I watched this video, it's hard not to feel like Miley is now in that most recent stage. And you know what? It's incredibly potent when she says, "That's not who I am," when she refers to her past. You're right, Miley, it was never who you were. And it adds that layer of inauthenticity that just drives me crazy. I want to actually like Miley Cyrus. I don't mind her voice. I don't mind this sound. And again, this week has been kind of crappy, but at the same time, it feels like a regression artistically. It doesn't feel like an advancement of any of the sounds that she's had before. Yeah, some of the sounds that she had before were pretty awful. I heard Miley Cyrus and her Dead Pets, but they were creative. This is a regression. This is going backwards, and I can't endorse that.
I got a list of names and yours is in red underlined. I check it once, then I check it twice. Oh, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me. Ooh, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me do.
You know, I was talking with a fellow colleague, a fellow critic on YouTube today, and we were talking about this song. And the one thing that immediately came to his mind was, oh, it's like when Garth Brooks did the whole Chris Gaines thing. And the more I think about it, yeah, the more it makes sense. An artist taking established cachet in their genre and then throwing it out the window in order to sound darker or more imposing, shredding any sort of previous reputation in order to make an inarticulate statement that ultimately ends up swallowing its own tail. Yeah, I've already ranted on Twitter about this song. I highly recommend you go check that out there. Let's cut to the meat about the matter here. This is a song that's trying to be dark and edgy and focus on, look what you made me do. Stop, Taylor. For as much as you have pushed for women to maintain agency of their own, saying that they made you do this? Screw off with that. Especially when it comes down to the actual sound and of the style of this record, you get the guys from Right Said Fred and don't really bring in any sort of significant melody behind the song? Seriously? This is the best you can do for a lead-off single with all this much pomp and significance in a completely overdone video? You might rip on previous versions of Taylor, but they had personality, they had a melody behind them. Again, this is reflecting of somebody who has basically been so cloistered by her team and circle at reached a point of such extreme fame that all she can draw upon is further artifice. She's feeding on her own legacy in order to perpetuate some sort of artistic advancement. And the sad fact is that she's relying on old grudges to bear forth some sort of art, and it's not working. It's repeating something that I thought we were done with 8 years ago, Taylor. You know what? I remember going back to stuff like Back to December, or songs that I actually liked, like Clean from 1989, or the couple songs I liked off of Red. She did one with the guy from Snow Patrol, Gary Lightbody. I liked that stuff. There's nothing. It's a facsimile of a facsimile, a copy of a copy. Songs and tones that just don't add up to anything. And the fact that it's trying to be edgy when it feels so flimsy like this? No, I don't buy it. Not in a second. Because this isn't a good song.
I can even go to sleep. Why? I'm rolling on the beam. Yeah. They tried to give me 8, got on my knee like Jesus, please. He don't even believe in Jesus. Why you got a Jesus, please? If you wanna leave, just leave. But you ain't gotta lie to me. Even the blind can see, but you ain't gon' ride for me. You ain't even showing me the love you say you got for me. There ain't no loyalty, you lie to me. You say that you gon' ride for me.
The The only reason this song exists at all is to court controversy, because some people are going to go to this by simply saying, oh, look at the two rappers that most mainstream rap publications don't want to touch because they've done things towards women with their sexual assault and harassment cases. Yeah. You know what, I'll talk about it, because this is garbage. Seriously, this atonal trap production that somehow still isn't interesting. Kodak Black with his whiniest tone yet about how this girl is just not showing him enough love, even despite all his stupid ass bragging. Then we have XXXTENTACION. Look, the album is not on my schedule, I'm not covering it, but if he's gonna sound like this, why the hell would I even want to? His bars are sloppy, he's mumbling through most of his bars, and then he will directly references the cases. Seriously, dude, at this point, all you're trying to do is coast off of that controversy to maintain any fame, because your music is garbage, both of you. This is crap, skip it.
Mama a thot, and she got ass, that she gon' fuck up a bag. Pull up to the spot, living too fast, dropping the dope in the stash. In Italy, got two foreign hoes, they DM me. Draw the top when it's cold, but you feel the heat. Be real with me, keep it 100, just be real with me. Eat it up like it's a feast. They say the dope on fleek.
You know it's not a good sign when you're relying upon Gucci Mane and Migos to replace a song that fell out this week with something of quality. But you know what? If I'm being brutally honest, this isn't bad at all. I actually think in terms from coming from these artists, maybe it's the benefit of lowered expectations, but I actually kind of like this. The production is nothing all that special. It's your typical Metro Boomin beat with your hollow synth behind it. But again, for what we get in terms of flows, Takeoff is on point, even if, again, it doesn't really feel all that consistent. And Gucci Mane, for once, is actually able to hold his own with the rest of Migos. He actually sounds pretty good on this flow and production. It kind of caught me off guard by that. Again, we don't get a verse from Offset, he's not on the song, and Quavo's basically handling the hook. And again, it feels like Quavo is becoming a bit of a one-trick pony with a lot of the references he puts in his bars, but this isn't bad. On a week like this, I'll take what I can get.
I'm wondering, can we still be friends? Can we still be friends? Doesn't have to end. And if it ends, can we be friends?
Oh boy. This is a song I wish I liked a fair bit more than I actually do. And you know what? I'll give points some of the production from BloodPop here. If you don't recognize that name, he's a co-writer behind a lot of Justin Bieber, that Madonna album Rebel Heart, and really the vast majority of Lady Gaga's Joanne. And I like this production a lot. That low thrumming bass, the drop's not great, but honestly, it's got some groove to it. The problem is, again, we're dealing with Justin Bieber, and you can only get so far with this on a song where he's basically saying, you know what? I left you, as he mentioned on the second verse. He was the one who left, but now he's calling back. He's asking questions like, you know, we don't have to be over here, but if we are, can we at least be friends? Look, it's not a bad sentiment. I get that. But Bieber isn't really capable of selling it all that well. He's not an impressive vocalist on this song. And while there is more detail than you would otherwise expect, it's got the same sort of conflicted set of writing that kind of characterized a lot of other stuff that was co-written by Julia Michaels, like her song Issues from earlier this year. Everything else doesn't quite get there. Gotta be honest. So look, I'm not gonna say that I'm surprised by this week. It was pretty bad, and thus I'm giving best week to I Get the Bag by Gucci Mane featuring Migos. Believe it, on a better week, the song would not have gotten it. But again, the flows were good. And honorable mention, you know what? It's got groove. Friends by Bieber and BloodPop. It actually kind of came together, barely saved there. But the worst. My God, I don't think I've had the wealth of crap that we have like this in some time. But you know what? Roll in Peace by Kodak Black featuring XXXTENTACION. That was by far the most annoying and grating song there. And you know what? RiceGum, you actually get a reprieve for having a couple decent bars, because Look What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift is getting the dishonorable mention. If only for the complete collapse of potential that you could have had going into this, and probably a really bad sign going into that album, because as much as Shake It Off was not exactly representative of 1989, I get the feeling this song might be representative of Reputation. Not good. But again, given how well it's doing, it's probably going to break into the top 10, if not the top 5 or higher next week. So we'll see what happens until then. But I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.